Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to our latest vlog. We're super excited. He's our first international guest. He's in the potash game, all the way from northern Spain, Mr. Ignacio Salazar from the CEO of Highfield Resources. The ticker is HFR. How are you?
Very good, very good. I'm very pleased and honored to be the first international speaker here, John. So very glad to be here.
No, we're super excited because and you'll explain why in a moment, but there's a lot of upside in potash, so it's an absolute pleasure having you on board. Now, for the audience out there that haven't heard of Highfield Resources, can you please give us a brief overview of Highfield and the opportunities for investors?
Absolutely, absolutely. So Highfield is an ASX listed company. We have a flagship Muga project in Spain, potash in the north of Spain. We will be producing, we are very close, shovel ready, about to start the bulk of construction. We started some construction a year ago, but now ready to go and build the whole project and the mine. And basically all the permitting, which is in Europe quite a lengthy and tough process, that was quite a major achievement. Now completing, we have most of the financing as well in place with reputable finance banks, and also getting now the final tranche strategics and the project, the team, contractors. We were announcing some of the latest contracts to build the mine, very much in place. So in potash, 500,000 tons to be produced to start with, and we will go into another phase to get up to 1 million. Very excited. We will be the next, or the next European mine, potash mine, to be built in Europe, which is obviously a market which is in deficit of potash, so very much needing this commodity.
So can you speak about potash and how it's important to global security in the food supply chain, and how your project in the north of Spain will help?
Well, the potash is absolutely critical for food security. I mean, we all know population in the planet growing. Obviously, that is not going to change, for expecting in 2050 to get to 10 billion people. And we also should know that arable land is decreasing. It's harder and harder to get land to generate crops. No? So the only way, obviously, with less land and more people to feed, there is all about yield and improved yields. And the only real effective solution right now, with no substitute, to improve yields on the land and crops, is through mineral fertilizer. Basically, this NPK that people may have heard of, nitrogen, phosphates, potassium, are the key ingredients. I mean, they are responsible these days for half of the global production. Otherwise, we will be producing half of the crops and we will be feeding half of what we are doing globally. So the only way to go forward and keep or improve feeding the planet is through more fertilizers, and one of them, as I said, a very critical one, is potassium. Adding to that, it is a very high volume commodity, so it's important the regions and it is in fact a commodity that is the geopolitical situation, and making sure that the dynamics of the market are efficient.
So with your project, what's the pathway to production?
Well, as I said, we feel extremely well prepared and ready. We covered probably the major, for those for people who know about Highfield, the key hurdle to jump was permitting in Europe and in Spain in particular. It's a lengthy, cumbersome process that takes time. That is behind us. And so we are fully permitted, ready to go with the bulk of the production, the construction. And basically, the team is ready, contractors we were announcing, as I said, and very important as well, 320, this is a project that is going a capex of 450 million euros. And we have already secured 320 million with very strong European banks, so BNP Paribas, Natixis, ING, And then HSBC and a local bank, Caja Navarra, joined into that syndicate. So that is ready. We are about, hopefully, to close pretty soon a strategic deal and ready to go with the equity and everything very much in place. So the path to construction is hopefully very short, and we feel very, very much prepared to start as soon as possible.
So we all know that there's a supply shortage when it comes to potash. That's why the likes of BHP have invested
Yeah,
huge sums of money in this space. Do you see the supply and demand dynamics changing anytime soon? You did mention
yeah,
10 billion people,
yeah.
but will there be an oversupply of potash? Do you see that happening or very
Yes.
unlikely?
No, well, my comments about the population and the land, I think that is long-term fundamental. So we see in the next 25 years, 50 years, this is a product that is, and as I said, no substitute is the only way to keep or feeding the planet in the future anyway. No, and that's why BHP and, by the way, Anglo as well have made significant efforts into this commodity. No, I would say in our project, so the potash, it's a special type of potash that is the one who is used for fertilizing the main type of crops, which is our MOP, muriate of potash. It's a 70 million, maybe that is good to put in the context of the market, global market, 70 million tons globally. And so we will be producing up to one, relatively small player, but very important in Europe. I said this, regions are important. You cannot be transporting from one end of the world to the other this product, or is not as efficient. But these days, the biggest potash producers globally are Canada, and by the way, very few number of countries control 80+% of the market. Canada, 30%, Russia, 20%, Belarus, 20%. And then you have already there 70%. And then you have China, Israel, Germany. And that's it. And then you get to more to 80, 90% with this handful of countries. And for European consumption, Europe has a 7 million demand of 7 out of the 70, and half of that is imported. It used to be relied heavily on Russia and Belarus, obviously, not so much sanctions recently. So we will be 1 million out of the 7 million demand of Europe, or out of the 3.5 gap Europe needs to cover their potash needs here. No? So, and as I said, is the next new mine and not many others. And by the way, heavy decline in potash production in Germany and Spain. So European production, if anything, going down. No? So extremely geopolitically critical, especially for Europe, but anyway, in general, in a commodity that is, well, it has a heavy concentration of producers, and we will be, well, this mine will be extremely strategic for Europe and globally going forward.
It sounds very similar to what happened to energy prices in Europe after the sanctions. So
Absolutely.
I haven't really been following the potash prices, but I imagine they're rallying off the back of these sanctions in Russia and Belarus.
Yes. So you are absolutely right. There was obviously, when the war in Ukraine, obviously all the headlines were about gas and the reliance on Russia. But there was a subset of discussions, and you might argue, obviously, energy very important, but feeding people as well, no? And when you put together Russia and Belarus producing 40% of the global potash, and by the way, with the other fertilizers, ammonia and with phosphates, also have a very, very strong presence in the market, as well as from a point of view of crop production, Russia and Ukraine, as well as we all know, very, very strong for Europe, but globally anyway. When you put all that fertilizers, not only potash, the others as well, and food, it is a very significant strategic issue, once again, related to Europe, and Europe clearly is very dependent on these countries in this very sensitive geopolitical situation. So that is the case. There was a massive spike in prices in potash, now talking about potash. That was on the back of COVID, therefore, crop prices were going up. That when that happens, the farmers have more capacity to invest. They see fertilizers as a way to, as an investment. So they make a bit of effort, they improve crops. They can, and as a result of that and the war in Ukraine, prices spike up significantly. After that, that has been obviously reduced because reacting to the very high prices, farmers can take a bit what we call a holiday, potash holiday. But the moment they do a season without potash or some fertilizers, the following season they need to keep going much more with fertilizers to replenish the soil and to get the yields that they need to have anyway. No, so I think we see long term a very strong future and fundamentals in Europe extremely important. A project like this one, and there are not any other in Europe, by the way, that you can visualize in the medium and short term. So that is a significant element, and that is a significant, by the way, strategic. Oh, sorry, the really a strategic advantage and the competitiveness of this project in terms of economics is, as I said, for a high volume like potash, we will be supplying customers by truck. We are surrounded. We really have to push aside some farmers just to build the mine. In fact, it's a very heavy, intensive agriculture region in the north of Spain, south of France, crops, vineyards, all sorts of agricultural activity. And compared to Russia, which is in the middle, they have to transport almost 2,000 kilometers, or even Canada is also in the middle of Canada. Even to get to port, they have to transport for very long distances, let alone then the ship to get to Europe. No? So our most strategic advantage is exactly to be in the middle of the farming area in Europe. No?
So, what do shareholders of Highfield have to look forward to over the next 6 months?
I think I think shareholders were extremely keen and patient, waiting for the permitting, which is, as I said, behind us. The next step is completion of the financing, because I mean, everybody is aware, of course, of progress with as I said, the debt side of that, but now is the final piece on the equity. And I think shareholders are aware that we are fully prepared to. Once that is completed, we are ready to go. And I think they will be, I think everybody waiting to make a Muga mine a reality now and see finally all the result of the fruits of all the work. Fruits is probably very relevant in this of this effort for now several years. No?
My Spanish friend, thank you. Enjoy sunny Spain. It's a very critical project that you have that provides food security for Europe. And we wish you all the luck, and we'll be monitoring you guys very soon. The ticker's HFR. Enjoy sunny Spain.
Thank you very much, John.
All
Pleasure.
right, so
My
bye.
pleasure.